Hello and welcome once again to Breakfast All Day. It's a great day. It's Saturday here in Palos Verdes.
We're at your house.
So, do you guys hear that? Can you hear that?
That echo?
No, that's nothing. That's called quiet. That's called the peace and quiet of living in paradise. So I'm so thrilled.
I miss the dogs and the sirens of my neighborhood.
And the garbage trucks. The garbage trucks do come by eventually. We have no trash here in Palos Verdes. Anyway, my friends Matt and Alonso have come to see me on this beautiful Saturday morning. I'm so thrilled to see you both. Thank you for making the schlep down here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. I don't know.
Alonso, pull our sound down a little bit.
Are you guys too loud?
A little bit.
Okay.
Like
anyway,
yeah,
we're messing with with noise levels here. Anyway, we did not get a chance to talk to you guys yesterday. Talk to each other yesterday. We had a cornucopia of obstacles that came our way. Matt, tell us about your dog.
Yeah, Sabrina barfed in my car.
Oh.
Yeah, those who follow me on Instagram or Twitter will have seen that I didn't post a picture of the barf, but
thank you for that.
Post barfy Sabrina. She felt bad.
Wait, so walk us through. Where were you when this happened?
So I was about halfway to Alonso's, and she started, it sounded like a cough, and then I was like, oh, no. And so I immediately pull over. I'm like, no, don't puke in the car. And she at least didn't puke on the carpet. I have leather seats, so on the seats and the console and stuff that was easily cleaned up.
She was in the back seat or the front seat?
No, she was on the, she rides in the footwell on the passenger side of the car. She's not a head out the window dog. She's a either sit on the, like curl up on the seat or curl up in the footwell. She likes to hide out, I guess.
You know, there's a whole thing where you can like strap your dog to the back of your car. Like, I mean, not the back, but like the back. No, that's like a Mitt Romney thing.
Like a deer that you've gone hunting and caught?
No, but like there's like a seatbelt situation in the back seat of the car where you can actually strap your dog in.
Yes. Mm-hmm. She does not do that. She, in the family car that we have, she'll ride in the back seat. That's bigger, but I have that little car, so she'll ride in the back seat if somebody else is in the front seat, but she likes to ride in the front. She prefers that. There's more space. But if she's curled up in the front seat, I have to put the seatbelt on because she's heavy enough to set off the seatbelt sensor.
Oh, because she's like a person.
She's 60 pounds, and the seatbelt sensor goes off at like somewhere under that. So I have to put the seatbelt not on her, but
in the
latched in.
thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, so we're all here today. I know some folks on Twitter were asking, like, where's your Joker review? Oh, do we have some thoughts on Joker?
And we decided it wasn't that big a movie. We weren't going to cover it.
We don't care about controversy. We're here to talk about itty bitty little weird indies. So Joker, who wants to describe Joker?
Okay. So Joaquin Phoenix plays a guy named Arthur Fleck, who is a clown and would-be stand-up comic in a very grimy Gotham City circa 1980-81. And the city is a disaster. There's a garbage strike, which is breeding super rats, which sadly we never get to see, because when you promise super rat, you do?
You do.
Okay, sorry.
You do.
We do get to see super
I don't remember
rats.
a super rat.
Strike that.
Oh, yeah.
Not enough super rats for my money.
I mean, they don't have capes. They're not like Crypto, the super dog.
Where are the frickin' laser beams? Anyway,
those are sharks.
He is he's upset and is dealing with a lot of stuff. He's taking care of his ailing mother, played by Frances Conroy. He is further alienated from society around him, and there's budget cuts in the city, so he's not getting the meds that he needs. And one day he snaps, and when that happens, it just so happens that there's a sort of a brewing discontent in Gotham City because millionaire turned politician Thomas Wayne has referred to the working class as clowns, which dovetails with what Arthur is up to, and it's all heading to a breaking point. And if you've ever seen Taxi Driver or The King of Comedy, you'll know what all those breaking points are.
Yeah, there's a lot of borrowing going on here.
So much.
I walked out of this film kind of hating it. I mean, appreciating some of the craft at work here, but feeling like it's all just empty, vapid style. And it's trying so hard to be so serious and so about something.
Why so serious?
Why so serious indeed? And so Todd Phillips directed this, and he has said, and we can talk about this later on too, that he wanted to make this transition out of the kind of comedies he made his name on, like Old School and like the Hangover movies, and just something more serious because you just can't make comedies anymore because of woke
and I
culture.
think actually, like what's being widely quoted and talked about is it's less that he wanted to do something serious so much as like, I can't do comedy anymore, so I'm going to do something really, really angry.
In your face.
Face and really dark.
And so we're just going to pretend War Dogs never happened?
Right.
I had forgotten about it entirely, but I guess that was his like baby step towards something really serious with that there. So Joaquin Phoenix cannot help but be great and give a really deeply physical performance. He always does. There's stuff going on with his body. He lost a whole bunch of weight for this. And there's stuff going on with his body with like his shoulder blades and his
he looked
hips,
like he dislocated
his like
arm.
contorting his body and like it's like the physical manifestation of his inner turmoil. And he can be chilling and he can be quite arresting in this. But so much of it is so repetitive. Todd Phillips likes to shoot Joaquin Phoenix in extreme close-up, chain smoking and or cackling maniacally at his own inner thoughts and demons over and over again. It's obnoxious.
Right. You talk about the detail. This movie does for Joaquin Phoenix's fingernails what the Lord of the Rings movies do for Elijah Wood's fingernails. Like, those guys bite him right down to the quick.
I'm not the biggest Joaquin Phoenix fan in the world, but I acknowledge that he's doing a thing here. Like
he's acting.
He is he is giving the movie what the movie needs him to do, and he's giving the performance I think clearly that he's been directed to give. I don't love it, but I think that he's the kind of actor who is not everybody's going to be on board for it. Like, Tom Hanks or whatever will do a thing. You're like, oh yeah, that was great. And like, I think generally people are fine with it. And then there are performers where you are either on board for that style of acting and that manner of presentation or not. And my not being on board with it does not make it not a good performance. It's just not my bag.
Similar, it makes me think a little bit, not in the style, but that kind of performance that'll divide people of Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys. Right, for instance, right? Like that's a different type of performance, but Brad Pitt goes for it in a really, really far out way that he's clearly been directed or at least on board by the director.
Yeah, Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls, that is
she was told to do that.
No. I think she gets a lot of crap for that, but she is doing exactly what her director asked her to do and committing to it fully.
Yeah.
So, but beyond the fact that it's totally repetitive, there's also a great deal of hand-holding going on here.
Oh, God,
and the score does so much heavy lifting. But there's a twist. We're going to do a whole separate spoiler.
There is a reveal in this movie that we won't give away. That when it first happened, I thought, oh, that's good. Oh, I didn't see that coming. And then the movie takes like 2 minutes to walk you through every step of the thing, of what's being revealed and how you misjudged it before. And it's like,
in case you didn't notice.
Really, Todd Phillips? Do you have that little credence in your audience that you have to it's like the magician coming out and saying, well, actually, there was a secret compartment in the thing.
It's very annoying. Yeah. So, I am not on board with the whole idea that this is going to incite violence in people. I think it's a ridiculous thing to blame art for people's actions. And I'm not on board with that. I don't know that it's good enough to actually move people to action.
Look, if we find it ridiculous every time there's a mass shooting and they want to blame video games or Marilyn Manson or whatever the hell the new target is, I'm certainly not going to get on board with the idea that this is going to make Incel Nation set itself on fire or whatever. But you're right. I think part of it is because the movie is so politically vague about what it even stands for or what it's trying to say. I think that almost any inclination, any political leaning could pick something out of this movie, because on the one hand it's about like class warfare and the exploitation of the working class and the sort of the rich people who do nothing while the poor suffer, but then on the other hand it's about like an entitled white guy who turns to violence when everything doesn't go his way, but then it's also about society not treating the mentally ill well. Like it's everything and nothing.
Well, I found it to be kind of wildly contradictory about the way it treats the Arthur Fleck character itself, because it kind of vilifies mental illness villainous in a way that's really despicable. At the same time, they want to celebrate him as like a rock star for sticking it to the 1%. Yeah. So which one is it? He wants to have it all both ways. And there's definitely a glorification of this person and the violence. There's a key moment, a key image, and this is not a spoiler, but like he's on top of a cab and people are cheering him, and like he's a rock star. He's like our hero. Now he's the hero of the downtrodden and the disenfranchised.
Right. That's the Taxi Driver influence, right? Like, it's funny. My score is going to be really pretty much the same as Alonso's, and I like it and dislike it, I think, for somewhat different reasons. Okay. I think that, I often think about, can you have a movie where almost everything works except the plot? And this is I think an example of that. Like I think the cinematography really works. Yeah. I think that the music really works. I think that is it overdone sometimes? It's repetitive in that I think the way it's cut and the way the plot and the story plays out, like it has no choice but to be. I think it works in a lot of places. Like some of the if we're following Fleck through this whole thing, there is, I'll talk about that in the spoiler a little bit. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's, I think some of the choices worked really well. There are absolute references to previous Joker stories from the comics. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. There's
right. And we don't want to give away too. We'll talk about that in the story. You mentioned one of them in our previous, when you came back from your Venice report. Yeah. There's a couple of things, there's one particular thing that is completely unnecessary. What bothered me about this is that, it's hard to separate the art from the artist in this particular case. And knowing what Todd Phillips has talked about being, you can't be funny anymore in this culture. Like, all right, sure. Have you not heard about Jojo Rabbit? Have you not heard about
tell it to Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Right. Like, all right.
Good
dude,
boys,
right?
book smart.
Right.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You can be inappropriate. Dolomite, which we're going to talk about next, is totally raunchy and inappropriate, but hilarious. So,
this strikes me as it. I can't help but look at this film as like, Todd Phillips feels like a victim here, and this is all of his victim. Like, on its best face, this movie says, look, like we can't just write people off, right? And I think it could be an indictment of like you can't write off people that have clearly mental health issues, and everybody needs to be seen, and we need to. Rather than shun people, like let's get to what's going on with them.
A lack of compassion creates monsters,
right? And in a world with compassion, we would not see Fleck go where he goes in this movie, right? Absolutely not. That being said, it's again, this is a movie that I think executes what it's trying to say fairly well. But what it's trying to say in the plot is the plot's inconsistent with what it's trying to do because, like you said, it is all over the place. But its core message to me is like, feel bad for Todd Phillips, like, right? And I know people are going to get all over me about this, but I don't really care. I just don't buy that. Like, it's hard to look at a guy like Todd Phillips and say like, you're the victim, right? Like that's where you're coming from. This, the other thing too is a little bit like. And we'll talk about this deeper and where I think this movie is in our spoiler review. Part of the appeal of Joker, like, to me, the best cinematic Joker has been what we got from Heath Ledger in that he keeps changing his story. Like and the best way to sum him up is when when Alfred says, some men just want to watch the world burn. Like what's great about the Joker is that there is no story. Like, sure, there's been comics that have talked about, the Killing Joke and that gets referenced in this talks about like, the bad day that he had. But even then, like there's later, in the comics,
it's chaotic.
It's chaotic. And, the Joker's chaotic evil, right? Yeah. Like he absolutely is. And there is no, as much as Batman is this figure that ultimately has a plan for everything. What's great about the Joker and what's chilling about him is that he can change origin stories and the origin doesn't matter. And right. I don't want to know the origin of the Joker. Like that's, as much as the first Burton Batman is pretty solid, like don't tie Joker to the Batman origin. And in this one, like, I don't want to know where the Joker comes from. Like I don't want to know. I don't think it works. And ultimately for what the Joker is as a foil to Batman, I think this movie does that character a disservice, right? Like, you want to go someplace else and make a different crazy character. And you know what? Again, the better version of this movie is Taxi Driver.
Yeah,
right? Well, absolutely.
And
or I will say the last thing, the better, more recent version of this story is Skin. You want to watch a movie that covers some of the same ground of somebody who comes from a dreadful background and goes down the path of evil, but then seems to pull out of it. But that same origin story, watch Skin. I think Skin covers a lot.
Remind me.
Jamie Bell is a white supremacist who has to have his white supremacist tattoos removed.
I think Skin is a much better take on this type of where a lack of compassion can send someone. Not over and above the fact that, like, yes, Skin shows that when compassion comes into it, somebody comes out of it. I think Skin's a much better kind of exercise in that, in this plot.
Joker gets compassion, but only from his mom, right? I mean, that's the only person who was kind to him. Even his social worker that he's assigned to go see can only do so much. Only his mom loves him.
We'll talk about this in the spoiler. I don't think that his mom is that compassionate. Like, I would argue that she's not.
She's like a narcissist herself.
Of that character, yeah. Right. And when you talk about not needing a Joker origin story, I mean, like, there have always, I think, over time there have always been multiple ones. There was the whole Red Hood thing. So I think there is. I don't necessarily mind having one just because they'll undo it later anyway. Like, that's sort of the idea of the character. Maybe
we'll talk about this in the spoiler review. I think this movie itself undoes it.
This is also true because we're dealing with
right.
But I did want to throw out real quick one line in my wrap review that has been like wildly misunderstood by many people, where I said if you pull the Joker and his 80-year history out of this movie, you're not left with much, and they think I meant taking the Joker, like the Arthur Fleck character, out of the movie. Like, no. If this were a movie, if the Joker mythos were not laid over this movie, it were merely about a guy named Arthur Fleck in this thing, we would look at this and be like, this is kind of a half-assed Scorsese ripoff.
Absolutely.
But it's got the whole like comic book mythology attachment, which gives it its own sense of importance.
Right. This is
it's Gotham City, and there are people named Wayne.
Right. This is a multi-million-dollar cast of thousands, half-baked. Taxi Driver remake that you wouldn't get without the DC weight behind it.
And that cast of thousands actually does include some cool folks. Frances Conroy said his mother. Zazie Beetz doesn't get enough to do, but she's always terrific. Bill Camp and Shea Wiggum as the cops who are coming after him, which is like character actor jackpot. Brian Tyree Henry, like all these really fun people are in it at least.
Yeah, I saw this the same day I saw Lucy and this guy. It was the Zazie Beetz Watch People Go Crazy double feature.
Well, the actual double feature to be had is Joker and Dolomite, because they have a lot in common too, which we will get to in our Dolomite review. So I'm saying 4.
I said 5.5. I like you said, I do respect the craft of it. I like the way this movie looks. I like, I think it is made with a great deal of care in everything but the writing.
I'm right there with Alonso. Actually, I think he basically said what I thought. 5.5.
Our number's a 5. It is at 70% on the tomato meter. It's sort of been flirting with that like high 60s, low 70s there. But it is so divisive. And so we're so curious to hear what you guys think. So let us know when you see it, because I know you're going to see it. I want to know what our listeners and viewers think.
We're having a fascinating weekend in that, like, Marvel fans are mad at Martin Scorsese for not loving them enough.
You mean Martin scores easy?
And DC fans are mad because Joker doesn't have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and no dissent is allowed, apparently. So
anyway, so we're going to do a Joker spoiler in a little bit, so please stick around for that. Yes.
All right.
So, hey, thanks for watching. If this is your first time here, because maybe you went looking for Joker reviews, won't you please like this video and subscribe to our channel? Follow us on...
Whether or not you like our review.
Yes.
And you want to argue with us more, please follow us.
By all means.
Subscribe to us so we can piss you off for money.
Follow us on social media at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And yes, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We offer extra goodies like movie news. We talk about trailers. We are currently currently recapping showtimes on on Becoming a God in Central Florida. We will be talking about Watchmen when that kicks off on HBO in a couple of weeks, and where people are currently voting on which horror movie we're going to review for October. So a lot of fun stuff. Check out our Patreon page. If you already have, thank you for being a subscriber, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.